Hey folks, you know it's going to be an absolute banger when we bust out the old Terran 2. This is a build that I am extremely excited to bring you guys. This is probably the most fun I've had playing a build probably ever, and if you like to go fast, you like to speed clear, especially if you're doing like Shrine Map, it kind of just gets turbocharged. This might be the build for you. It is 1000 corruption viable. Regular Aberoth I've already done with it, and it was super easy. I think Uber Aberoth might actually be possible with this build too. I don't see why not. But yeah, we'll see. I'll keep working on it, keep min-maxing, and try and take it into that eventually. A lot of effort does go into putting these build guides together, so if you do like them, please help support me by clicking that like button and letting me know your thoughts in the comments, suggestions, feedback, any improvements you might find. Let's jump into it. Let's start by talking about how the build functions. So this is a classic int stacker mage. Currently we have 242 int. With the new stuff in Season 2, you could probably get this number close to 270. At some point, it might not be worth getting more. There's usually other stats that you could probably get better, but getting as much int as possible is a good thing for this build, mainly because we are using Fragment of the Enigma for spark charges, so +2 flat damage per int. This is a lot of flat damage on the spark charges, or something like 500 plus, because there's some base, probably a bit higher than that. In total, but yeah, you're getting a huge amount of flat damage on the spark charges. That's the majority of our damage. And then also int is giving us increased damage just because that's how it scales spell skills for mage. And it's also giving us a bit of ward retention, so we get a pretty decent amount with idols and stuff like that. You can end up getting something like 5,000 plus resting ward just from that for free. You could even get more if you want to invest more into that if you want. But I find it's already fairly tanky, even at 1000 corruption. When you're channeling, you can get, here I have 9000 armor, you can get higher than that if you want. It's not too hard to get quite a lot of armor on this build and be fairly tanky, especially with the mobility, you're not getting hit much. The way we are applying spark charges with this build is Lightning Blast, and we have as many sources of Lightning Blast as I could possibly get. So the mana guide, this is how you move around while channeling focus, and it also casts Lightning Blast once per second. So that is one source of Lightning Blast that we have, and we actually have 3 more. So another one is Frostwall. So we put Frostwall down, it will also cast Lightning Blast. So if you ever want a bit of extra damage, or you're doing a boss or something like that, you drop Frostwall down on them. There's also a bit of more damage. We already have the focus that we mentioned. They're all inheriting the Lightning Blast tree. So the Lightning Blasts have a chance to do the Spark Charge, and then the Spark Charges applied do extra damage. They also detonate instantly if they're hit by a Lightning Blast, so all of this works pretty well together. It seems like this Spark Nova thing too is also doing a bunch of extra stuff. I still need to do more testing, but it seems like this is actually doing something for our damage. But yeah, needs more testing. Another source is through static. So we have static on the bar. We don't actually use static, but while we're walking around, we build up charges. And then you can see even while we're channeling, we're still building up charges. And then once we get above 80, it just starts using it automatically, and you have a bunch of lightning blasts going off. And then finally, this is the new tech here. So Arcane Ascendance you can actually use while you're in focus. When you are casting Arcane Ascendance and then you cast a traversal or movement skill, it cancels. So you can see there, it just canceled it automatically. But if you already casted focus and you're just channeling it, if you activate Arcane Ascendance, you're not actually casting the movement because it's already active. So it doesn't interrupt it, and it just stays on. And you can see with that, we're actually getting quite a lot of Lightning Blasts. And then you throw down Frostwall. That with static, Arcane Ascendance, Mana Guide, it actually ends up being quite a lot of Spark Charges. So the Arcane Ascendance itself has the Lightning Blast automatic, and you have increased frequency here. You can see it's just staying up. And then periodically you're going to cast Teleport to get the Chrono Warp from Wrongwarp to get your movement speed. You cast Arcane Ascendance, and then you're zooming around. Just keep an eye on the Chrono Warp buff because that's your move speed. Cast again, and then repeat. And that's pretty much all you're doing. That's your whole rotation. Even with this setup, you're actually still pretty fast. And this is actually the slow setup. We have an even faster setup that I often use for maps. If you want to zoom even harder, what you can do is something like this. And now we're 150, even when in focus. So that's extremely fast. This feels really good for zooming. Even in 1000 corruption, you can use this setup and you're completely fine. We still have quite a lot of ward. We still have a pretty sizable amount of armor and DR from focus itself. So even doing this with Kestrel, we're still extremely fast. And while you're not channeling, if you just want to like quickly run through, you're at over 200% move speed like this. So extremely fast if you want to be. That's the basics of how the build functions. If it does turn out that this Arcane Ascendance thing is a bug, you just go Runemaster, and then there's a bunch of extra stuff you could do here to make up for the damage you lose. There's some more damage here. There's some more damage for crits here. So these like multipliers, there's some other good nodes. In general here, you have some defense. This is what we were using on our T-Pose Runemaster build. You can use that. But yeah, in general, there's some pretty strong stuff in Runemaster. You can even do Railwind's Frostguard for a bunch of extra ward. Because we're stacking INT, it'll give you huge amounts of ward. So the Runemaster setup version of this, still doing spark charges, would actually be extremely tanky. You would lose a little bit of damage, but it would probably still be fine. So jumping into the gear. The first thing is Mana Guide. This is mandatory for the build. It just doesn't function without it. The stats, the main thing here is crit multi. Pretty much everything crit multi is like the #1. You're going to probably get crit cap for free just because of our items and in stacking. But yeah, so crit multi here, Mana Guide. You can get Lightning Pen, you can get Shred, you can get Frailty, you can get lightning damage. There's a lot of things on here that are good, but I think crit multi is probably the best. Then Helm, you have a few options here. I'm still experimenting with this. Lightning Blast, I don't actually know if it's worth it. The Lightning Blast, I'm using the extra points to go over here and get the Spark Novas, which seem like they do some sort of proliferation thing. It might even give you single target. Again, I need to do more testing on that. I'm not completely sure. But an ideal slam would probably be something like this, where you have T7 INT, T7 Lightning Blast, and then maybe slam it into Dominance of the Tundra. This is something that I'm looking at doing. And then just have like a useful third affix. If I get some more armor crit reduction, I could just be capped just from this. So something like that would be really good. If you don't have the Uber Relic for a Helm, you can consider using Prismatic Gaze because you will need base crit. So the way the crit works is if you have 5% base crit, which is the default, you need 1900% increase crit for crit cap. If you have 10 crit chance, so say you have a Relic with 5, then you only need 900%. So without any base crit on your gear, it's very hard to get to crit cap. So if you don't have Relic, you either want Prismatic Gaze or you want like gloves or something like that. You're going to need base crits somewhere. So just keep that in mind. If you have the gloves, you can also use Peak of the Mountain. So this is another option early on. It gives you some int. You can get high amounts of LP easy, and the increased crit chance goes well with whatever base crit you have somewhere else. So this is also an option early on. Moving over to the wand. So the wand, there's a few options. Wrongwarp is really nice. If you have the Uber Relic, the haste from Wrongwarp is not really doing anything because you already have perma haste. But in general, Wrongwarp is just a really good staff for casters, especially if they're fast moving. Spell crit, if you're not crit capped already, you can get Lightning Pen. There's a few other stats, but in general, crit multi is probably going to be the best. Then after that, there's Mad Alchemist. This is really good for bossing. If you want to just direct cast Lightning Blast, you can use this as well. You'll get a lot more cast speed, which feels good because of the int. It's cast speed per int. In general, I do like Wrongwarp more for the zooming. Then for the body armor, you have quite a few options here as well. So I like Core of the Mountain because you have periodic immunity. Then you also have attributes. Obviously, the strength is good because it's percent armor. Int is good because it's damage and everything. Just generally a good chest piece with percent armor already on it as well. Then Kestrel, as I said, this is for zooming. If you want to go really fast, you have 7% move speed on it, and then another 30% haste effect, which works out to something like 10% move speed. So In total, it's like almost 20% move speed, not actually that bad. And it's pretty easy to have 4LP. I think I have multiple 4LPs of this, so getting like a double T7 on a Kestrel would be pretty easy. And then finally, Static Shell. This one I think might be what I end up going with endgame. It has more lightning damage to shock enemies, and I want to get as much damage as I can. It also has more armor against shock enemies. So this is not character sheet armor. So anything that depends on character sheet armor, like Eternal Gauntlet, armor mitigation, for example, will not work with Static Shell. So just keep that in mind, but it is a huge modifier to your defense. If you're not already soft cap on your armor mitigation, this makes you extremely tanky against anything hitting you. So very, very strong chest piece. Damage is great. Like any more damage you can get, because this isn't going to be like S tier levels of single target damage. It's not terrible, but any extra damage you can get is going to be a big win. The only potential downside is that you cast static when hit, which will use your static charges, and then you have to build them up again to be casting Lightning Blast from that. Then moving over to Catalyst, there isn't really any alternative. Enigma is the only one that works here because this is what gives us damage on our spark charges. Getting as high int as you can is kind of priority. For slams, crit multi is big here. Spell crit if you're not capped. Then you can get some defensive stuff. I think there's ward per second. Then moving over to rings, red ring is just always good. Getting resist here makes it really easy to manage the rest of your gear. Getting move speed is good because we want to go fast. The all attributes is obviously good. The DR is obviously good. Red ring is probably just best in slot. And then for the other ring, crab ring, I kind of like over a second red ring just because the swiftness, getting the move speed is really nice. You could do both because the red ring itself has move speed. So like double red ring might be fine. I definitely wouldn't be using the red ring if you don't have LP for a slam. I don't think it's worth it at that point. But yeah, crab ring is really good. 3LP is possible, maybe even 4LP. Another option is the Osirian. This is 10% more damage. So another really good one, and it also has a bit of DR built into it. So this is something that you could use. Again, up to you. I think this would probably give you a bit more damage than some of the other options if that's your priority. Then moving over to belt, I don't know if there's really any alternatives to Orion's Descent. I think this belt is actually really good here. 25 int is so much int on a slot that normally can't get int at all. It's just a massive increase to everything in our build. Damage, ward retention, all that stuff, right? So it's pretty hard to compete with this. And then we're also getting a lot of smite hits as well. Even though we don't care that much about smite, we do get a little bit of damage. And then smite also inherits this chance to apply spark charge. So you are getting a few extra spark charges from the smites as well. If you're not already getting your crit mitigation from somewhere else, I think belt's a pretty good place to get it. You could also just do like damage stats. You could slam cleanse. Then moving over to gloves, we have a few options for gloves. So Blood Mage, as I already mentioned, if you're not already getting base crit from somewhere else, you can use that. The Fingers of the Phantom Mire, this is part of my speed setup. So if I'm doing double Arboreal Rings for as much move speed as possible, then I put Phantom Mire on for the swiftness. So with this setup, this is the speed setup. Another option is Swaddling. So Swaddling has all attributes. The strength and int are kind of the big things here that you care about. But I don't know if it's actually worth it. +6 all attribute. Even if you had multi T7s on your gloves, I just don't know if it's going to be worth dropping something like an Eternal Gauntlet base that actually has good stats. Now that you can get multi exalts on decent bases with the imprint system, I feel like Eternal Gauntlets is probably going to be better. You can even have like an extra stat on seal if you have something really good. So yeah, it's probably going to be hard to compete with a good Eternal Gauntlets. You definitely want T7 int, but then you could also get something like T7 shred. You could get strength if you want for more percent armor. You can get some other defensive stat like crit mitigation here. Frailty is good here. Then boots. I don't really know if there's going to be much alternative to Blood of the Exile. These are just really good boots. Strength and int are both good. As I said, it has a bunch of move speed. And then getting LP is a little bit hard, but you can realistically get to LP. And then here's what I think is like pretty much the perfect boot for this build. I slammed double T7, move speed, and int. This is actually huge. If you have to pick one, You could kind of go either way. We already get a lot of int, so it's okay to get move speed if you want to go fast. If you just want to do more damage, have more ward retention, whatever, you could just get more int. Typhoon is an option, would give you a bunch of dodge, so you'd be getting hit almost never. The problem with Typhoons is that you don't get the move speed while you're channeling, so you're extremely slow with Typhoons. The same issue with Foot of the Mountain. Some alternatives. I just don't think any of them really compete with Blood of the Exile, so this is probably best in slot, like almost always for this build. And then finally, the relic slot. Uber is the only relic that's like amazing for this build. This does a lot of things. Perma haste is huge. Slow immunity is huge. It has DR. It has base crit, which frees up a lot of slots elsewhere. It's really big. It has all attribute. It has frenzy effect. We don't really care about that. And +1 all skills, which is also good for this build. This relic is just absolutely insane, and especially for this build, it is even more insane. So if you can get it, definitely do. If you can slam int on it, do that as well. If you cannot get this relic or you don't have it yet, it's completely fine to just use something like Stormcarved. It has a few resist. It has a bit of Lightning Pen. It has a little bit of flat, some mana. It's fine. Doesn't really do a whole lot, but it's not a bad relic. And if you don't have that or you don't want to use that, you can just use an Exalted Relic. It's fine to use that as well. You'll want int on it. You can also get crit multi. You can get frailty, a few other things. So relic slot can help you early on, filling out whatever stats you're missing. For relics, I think this is a pretty good opportunity to get a little bit of Lightning Pen. You can see I have some here. Lightning Pen is basically a damage multiplier. We already do have Shred and we have Shock, which already deal with resist a bit, but getting more pen is going to be better. It's still, we don't have that much, so the pen does add quite a bit of value. And then you're filling out whatever resist you're missing here as well. If you're using double red ring, most of your idle suffix should probably go to ward per second, ward retention. This is going to be a huge boost to your defense. So these are just generally very valuable. And then everything else here, you're just filling out stats. So whatever resist you're missing, more ward retention, ward per second. You can even get frailty here if you're missing it on your gear. So those are pretty powerful for filling out whatever you're missing. Just idols are your like easy swap resist fillers and all that stuff. Moving over to blessings, crit multi is the best here. All res is the best here. If you are already all res capped for whatever reason, you could take like crit avoid and then just get crit avoid one place and then you're capped. Probably all res is overall the best. Here's armor while channeling. If you find you're not really ever dying while channeling and the only time you die is when you get hit while not channeling for whatever reason, you could swap to just regular armor. This is fine too as like hedging against bad play, I guess. And then percent armor here is really good. If you're not phys res capped or you're struggling with resist, you could just take phys res. But in general, I think percent armor is the best because we get so much flat armor from focus that you do want percent armor. And then finally, shred. It's hard to get shred elsewhere, so I think this is probably the best place to get it. Then moving over to passives. So here, you could grab ward retention here. Go that route if you want to path a bit differently. That's an option. I personally preferred to go here because we already have quite a bit of ward retention. This is up to you. But yeah, int, obviously this is int and res. These are really good nodes. And then I just took more damage because why not? This is not super high value because of diminishing returns. We have so much anyway. And then I just go grab crit because crit build. Then in Spellblade, I just grab this int here because it's int and it also gives ward decay threshold. Then we just do a bit of pathing here and we take a more multiplier. This is basically 6 points for 6%. It's not super high value. This one gives us a bit of res and damage. So it's kind of like 5-ish points for 6%. It's not bad, but yeah, you don't need to take all these points if you don't want. Or if you're not max level yet, just skip out on these. Then RUNEMASTER, we have some pathing here. We have DR. You could actually take more DR. This is probably worth taking and then drop some of the int. But yeah, I don't currently have it. Then I take int. Then this note here is really strong for any mage build that can use a catalyst. Crit mitigation plus int is just generally really good. I take this here, crit chance, and it's more damage against low health. So for something like Uber Aberoth, where it gets really dangerous at low health, this is actually not bad. But yeah, this is also optional. If there's better places to put it, you can do that. And then we have a little bit of move speed after traversal. We are using teleport fairly often, so this just ends up giving you boosted move speed a lot of the time. It's not bad. If you didn't take something else mentioned, you can take more crit multi, especially early on where you don't have a lot of crit multi. This will give quite a bit of damage. Then moving over to Sorc. So here, this is cast speed, move speed, spell damage. The main thing we care about here is move speed and spell damage. The indirect casts don't really apply to this, but every time you teleport, you Arcane Ascendance, you focus, this will refresh your buffs, so you do have move speed fairly often. And then here we have spell crit per int. This is where most of our spell crit comes from. So at 250 int, this would be 750% increased. As I said, if you have 10 base crit, you would only need 900% increased spell damage. So this already almost crit caps you if you're using, if you have 5 flat crits somewhere. So it's extremely powerful. Take this early on for your crit. It makes a big difference. And then you just need to supplement your crit a little bit somewhere else. Then here we take this ward per second per 10 max mana and ward per second. We just need nodes to get towards the end of the tree. This doesn't actually do that much because we don't have that much mana, but it's a good pathing node. Then we go here, lightning damage, lightning pen. We don't have that much pen, so this is decent value. If we're ever missing our ward or we get hit into our life pool, this leech does recover quite a bit. It helps a lot against DOTs that might otherwise kill us. But mainly this is just to get points to move on. Then we take crit chance. The lightning, this also gives 50% lightning crit. This doesn't show up on your character sheet. So if it says like 95% crit, you're probably crit capped just because of the hidden lightning crit. But yeah, generally good pathing node. Then crit multi 10 per point is not bad. Then here we have int and ward decay threshold per int. This is pretty huge. This is 1250-ish ward decay threshold for this breakpoint. So pretty powerful. And then Spark Nova, I'm still on the fence of if this is really useful. I think there might be some sort of chaining or cascading thing with the Spark Novas. It's not really clear. There might be weirdness. I need to do more testing, but yeah, for now, it seems like it's okay. There's also some more damage here if you want to take that. That is an option. But in general, this is where we're at with the passive trees. It's been working pretty well for me so far. Moving over to the skills, I guess I'll start with focus. So for focus, the main thing you're doing here is just as a utility to move around and also give us defense. So more armor and armor per int. This is like huge amount of your defense. We have so much int. The flat armor per int is just making us giga tanky. It's really strong. The no cooldown, you probably don't technically need to take this if you have some cooldown reduction maybe, but it's such a huge quality of life. If you don't have this, it's going to feel really bad. Sometimes you're going to go to cast focus and it'll be on cooldown and then you can't actually do anything. And then you take here is DR. You're applying chill and you're getting a bunch of DR. It's actually a lot. 20 DR here for free. Then we have another 20 DR here for free from shock. Then we have mana regen, and then per missing. The lower you are when you start casting focus, the more of the mana regen you're going to get. So this ends up being pretty significant to sustaining your mana. It's actually not bad at all. And that's pretty much it with the focus tree. You could take haste if for whatever reason you don't have a source of haste, but you're going to be getting it from either Uber Relic or Wrongwarp or something else, even Kestrel. So yeah, this is a little bit awkward and probably not worth it. Then Lightning Blast is our Spark Charge source. I already kind of mentioned this a bit, but the way it basically works is every hit has this chance to apply the Spark Charge, and this is including the indirect cast, which is most of our cast. So we go down here and we take Convergence. That means that all the Lightning Blast chains can hit the same target. So they chain back onto itself, to hit the same target. This cuts your chains in half, so the odd number of chains, that's why I'm taking 3 here. So the 3 rounds up to 2 rechains. If you go to 4, I think you don't really get anything extra from that. Then over here we have the spark charge stuff. So in addition to the spark charge we have from Enigma, the lightning blast itself has extra here. So 30% chance on hit, and that counts all the extra rebouncing. And then we have the spark damage more multiplier here, pretty big, 200% more damage. It's a big deal. And then we have the instant detonation. This is really big for clear. It just makes it feel a little bit smoother. There's also a bunch of extra chains that you get here for direct cast, and it seems like after you direct cast, you get some extra chains on your indirect cast. So that's something that you can do if you want a little bit more single target, is you could, like for example, drop teleport. You could drop teleport, replace it with lightning blast, and then every now and then while you're zooming around with focus, you just tap the boss with lightning blasts a few times, and then you keep focusing, and you'll get a lot more of the hits, because yeah, you have all the extra. There's some built-in extra chains on lightning blast as well, so in addition to this and the built-in, you basically get an extra re-hit on all of your indirect casts as well for each time you cast lightning blast recently. So that is something you could do. It will up your damage a fair bit. And then we go over here, we take blind, which if you don't have crit mitigation cap, you're going to be blinding basically everything. So you don't really need to worry about crit that much. You definitely would if you're playing on hardcore, but in general, this is going to be already quite a bit. And then the Spark Nova, as I mentioned, we take that. Another option is you can take Lightning Aegis, but the Lightning Aegis will be popping pretty much all of the time. The issue with Lightning Aegis is if you take 25% of your health as damage, that counts damage taken to your ward. So if you're in high corruption or fighting a strong boss, pretty much every time you take damage, it's going to pop your Lightning Aegis. So I'm not really a huge fan. It's okay for like intermittent large hits, like mitigating those, and then just accepting that it'll pop it. But yeah, it's up to you. You can take this if you want. The next static, so static is a pretty simple tree. We're basically just pathing towards Lightning Blast. While you're over 80 charges, you're casting Lightning Blast every second. We have extra charge gain here on the Lightning Blast crits. We have extra chain stuff here, so that's pretty useful here for just getting a little bit more damage. This is just supplementary to all of our other Lightning Blasts. And then we have extra max charges, so this just gives us more buffer if we ever stop moving and the charges go down. We stay above 80 easier. And then up here we have movement, so you're doubling your charge because we're always moving. These are just no-brainer nodes, always good. Then Arcane Ascendance, so we have spell damage just because we need them to path. Then we have the automatic Lightning Blast. This is just really good in general. It's another source of Lightning Blast. You need to take this. And then we have spell damage per second. This doesn't end up being that much because we already have so much spell damage after the 12 seconds or whatever. It's still not like a huge amount of spell damage even after that time, but you might as well. We need to put the points somewhere. Cooldown reduction. This is just quality of life. It means that you can cast it more quickly after it ends when you teleport to either move or refresh your chrono warp. Then we have a more multi. This is global, so all of the damage you're doing while your Arcane Ascendance is up, if you're hitting a slowed enemy, you have 24% more damage. So this is a pretty big deal. And then we have Acuity. This is just staying up. It helps with your mana sustain a little bit. Not that we struggle that much, but it's just a quality of life here. And then finally we have the Frost Wall. So Frost Wall is just another utility. It's casting the Lightning Blast. You go over here, it's casting Lightning Blast when you first pass through. So it does help to pass through, but it continuously casts anyway. And then the frequency can go up every time an enemy passes through. So if there's like a big group of enemies or something like that, you can get quite a lot of Lightning Blasts out of this. And it also acts as a source of cleanse. So if you don't have cleanse on like your belt or whatever, you can just drop it and pass through. If you have like a big DOT, you can just drop the Frostwall on yourself to cleanse whatever it is, and this can actually save your life. So just keep that in mind when you're playing to have your cleanse ready if there's something deadly. And then we have another global more damage buff. So this is giving you 14% more damage whenever it's up to chilled, and they are going to be chilled because we are doing that with focus. So everything should be chilled. So you get that more damage from this. Anyway, I've been rambling for a while. Let's close out this video by jumping into a quick map. I currently have my speedy gear on, so you can see what that looks like. So full speed, we're something like 200-ish move speed. And yeah, let's go. So the gameplay is pretty simple as far as like how to actually play. This is basically all you do. You just zoom around and you are holding your focus down. You cast Arcane Ascendance as quickly as possible after you start focusing. And you can see even at 1000 corruption, all of the rare enemies are dying, all the packs are getting exploded. If you want extra damage, you can see here, just drop down a Frostwall. Took a bit of damage there because of poor play. That's a skill issue. In general, you do have the tools to stay alive through pretty much everything. Even with this troll gear, I don't have my red ring on. I have Kestrel. We're basically trolling, but it's still totally fine. We do the damage, we have the speed, and it just feels good. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for today. I'll be continuing to work on this build. I'm still having quite a bit of fun with it. I want to try to take down Uber Aberoth with it, so that is going to be the goal for this build. And that's when I'll call it basically a success. I haven't attempted it yet, but I do think it is actually going to be possible. It might be a slow kill, but yeah, I think it's going to be possible. Anyway, as always, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.